Curse of Strahd is a notoriously difficult D&D campaign to run, not just for DMs, that's a whole other video, but for players as well, trying to navigate it. PC player character deaths can be quite common. It's approaching Halloween, or at least I'm hoping to get this out before Halloween, and so I thought I'd do a sort of a jokey, silly video where I talk about 99 ways you can die in Barovia and in Curse of Strahd. Greetings fellow Mist Wanderers, my name is Steve Morgan and this is DM of the Mists, covering all things Curse of Strahd and Ravenloft. First thing I want to say right off the bat, no pun intended, is this video is going to contain tons of spoilers for Curse of Strahd. I'm going to be talking about different locations, different scenarios, different NPCs and monsters. If you do not want Curse of Strahd spoiled, it pains me to say this, but please click away. If you are a current or potential future player of Curse of Strahd, this will be full of spoilers. If you are a past player of Curse of Strahd, you've completed Curse of Strahd, or you are currently DMing a Curse of Strahd campaign or have in the past, or potentially want to in the future, feel free to watch on. So yes, 99 ways to die in Barovia and in Curse of Strahd. It was fun putting this list together, but I actually really struggled to find 99 ways. I thought it'd be easy. And then I got to about 50, and I was like, okay, the well's starting to run a bit dry, and then I got to about 80, and then the last sort of 20 or so were a real struggle, but I did manage it. Some of them are, as far as I know, there's no repeats, but some of them might be a monster kills you with a different spell, that kind of thing. So there may be some NPCs and monsters repeated. But yeah, there shouldn't be any repeats, I don't think. I hope not. And hopefully there's 99. I'm hoping that I counted right and this doesn't end up being like 98 or 100. So I came up with a list, and then randomized that list, so you might find that things are scattered around. And I also have only stuck to raw, rules as written, vanilla Curse of Strahd, so there's no homebrew, there's no Curse of Strahd Reloaded or Mandy mod suggestions. This is all just pure stuff if you were running Curse of Strahd straight out of the book. And I want to give a shout out to the Curse of Strahd Discord as well. This was sort of semi-inspired by a recent post where on the Curse of Strahd Discord there's a channel called March of the Dead, where DMs can give some information about a PC that's just died in their game. And seeing that and seeing what was kind of like common deaths and, you know, the common causes of deaths kind of gave me the inspiration for this video. So thank you to those who run it. And before I move on, this video isn't sponsored, but I did promise a friend I'd say thank you for some help and advice they gave me recently. Sometime in the future, might be a little while away yet, I'd love to start doing an actual play. I'd probably do a wider Ravenloft campaign actual play instead of a Curse of Strahd one. But I have a friend who runs a Curse of Strahd actual play called Angel. He's the DM of Darkeport Productions, who do a number of actual plays, but they are also doing a Curse of Strahd actual play. So Angel, I fired him over some questions and he answered them. I said as a thank you, I'd mention him in a couple of videos. And if you want to watch a Curse of Strahd actual play, check out theirs on their channel. Memory serves, I think they've just finished, or they're in the middle of Valaki. They've recently met Rictavio and they recently obtained and read the Tome of Strahd. It's good as well, I've been enjoying it. I've watched every episode so far. Been watching that alongside Black Dice Society, Ravenloft. It's been good fun. Okay, on with the list. Starting with, there's ghouls in the Death House, in the ghoulish encounter section. I see what they did there. The suits of armour traps near the audience hall in Castle Ravenloft. As you're sort of going up the stairs towards the audience hall, you step on a panel and you might get bopped on the head from this statue with a mace. Admittedly, they don't do a lot of damage. You'd need to really be on low health in order for one of these to kill you. But hey, it could happen. And speaking of Castle Ravenloft, the red dragon wormlings in the entry that attack if you try and escape. Yeah, I think that's a good way to go if you're going to go. Strahd makes you a vampire. He drains you of your blood, buries you. The next day or night, you come back as a vampire spawn under his control. Random scarecrow around Barovia, or possibly in Berez, the swamp. There is a giant goat called Sangzor in the Stalenka Pass that can try and hit you over the edge and you go plummeting down off the cliff. Strahd's Children of the Night ability allows him to summon swarms of bats, swarms of rats, and a lot of wolves if he's outdoors, and they can tear you apart. There's a random encounter when you're going around Barovia. I think it might just be a nighttime one, where a ghost possesses a PC, leads them all the way to Castle Ravenloft, and tries to get them to jump into the chasm. That's grim. Love it. Strahd again. Punches or claws you with his unarmed strikes, depending on how you flavour it. I think in really old Curse of Strahd it was bludgeoning damage. I'm pretty sure it says that in my book. But then I think in later versions, or maybe revamped, it says slashing damage. I think he's more of a puncher than a clawer. I just don't know what you think. There are lots of wolves in the woods at the start of the adventure. When you find the dead guy with the letter, and if you hang around, I think up to 20 wolves can come and attack. That's a lot for a level 1 party? Are they level 1 at that point? Yeah, probably. There is an unseen servant walking around Castle Ravenloft. It's one of the random encounters that has a chalice, carrying around a chalice. If a PC drinks it, they are poisoned, and it does a fair bit of poison damage if memory serves. And then what I love as well is if you see it again in later encounters, it's actually a healing potion, but no one's going to drink it a second time, are they? There are some people, and it blows my mind that they do this, they make enemies of Esmeralda. Maybe they don't trust her, maybe they think she's actually working for Strahd on the side. I don't know. I don't like it when that happens. I love Ez as an NPC. But there are some people who make enemies of Ez, and actually if you play her stat block optimally, she is quite a formidable foe, as well as a formidable ally. If the tower, Van Richten's tower, collapses and people try and move the stones out and try and unearth what's going on there, some berserk clay golems can attack if they are unearthed, and they're pretty strong. The shambling mound, Lorgoth the Decayer, in the ritual chamber in Death House. I'm sure he's claimed a victim or two. Babalasaga zaps you with finger of death. Pew! Victor's glyph of warding on his bedroom door. Touch it and zap. The Abbot. I think the Abbot appears twice, and in this version, DMs are going to tell me this isn't horror. But in my game, he transformed into a T-Rex, because he's got the change shape ability, can transform into a beast, and I had him change into a T-Rex, because he's like a millennia-old angel, maybe even longer. They've probably seen a T-Rex in his time. There's a random encounter. I completely forgot about all this, and this is actually really cool. There's a random encounter as you wander around Barovia where a will-o'-wisp leads you to a ruined tower that contains a chest, and then you get swarmed by loads of zombies. I think that's great. The Rug of Smothering in Castle Ravenloft by the Portrait of Strahd tries to suffocate you. What a way to go. The Night Hag Coven, with access to their Coven spells, hits you with a lightning bolt. There's a werewolves random encounter where they, in human form, try and be friendly with the party, find out if they've got silvered weapons or not, and if not, they transform and attack. An evil PC, if you allow evil PCs in your game, that's a whole other discussion, I know some DMs don't. If an evil PC grabs the icon of Ravenloft, they're blasted with a huge amount of radiant energy. That's the reason there's a dead guy on the floor right next to it. The Crypt in Castle Ravenloft, full of ghouls, and there is a silence spell at the bottom, so someone falls in, you can't even hear them scream as they try and claw their way out, while ghouls are tearing them to pieces and eating them. It's horrible, but it's brilliant. There are so many needle blights in the winery, you guys. So many. Death by needle blight. The Door Dragon at Van Richten's tower. Do the puzzle wrong, a dragon appears, and it does a breath attack on you, and probably some other stuff. Rahadin, as a random encounter walking around Castle Ravenloft. He's friendly and he's not hostile. He guides you around different rooms. Is Strahd in those rooms? Maybe, maybe not. But if you attack him, he fights to the death. Drinking the poisoned wine in the winery. Probably not a good idea, I wouldn't have thought. Nepharun, the Arcanalath, in the statue in the Amber Temple, zaps you with Finger of Death. This is a classic one. Coffin Shop Vampire Spawn. Very nearly a TPK in my campaign. I'm sure it's a TPK, only a TPK for a lot of Curse of Strahd campaigns. It's classic encounter. And speaking of vampire spawns, maybe they're drained by a vampire spawn down to 0 HP, and that kills them outright. Nepharun. I randomised this order. Nepharun appears again, this time casting Chain Lightning. Being shaken off the Heart of Sorrow staircase. This actually is nearly a TPK in my game as well. Quite a few people went on the stairs, got shaken off, knocked to the bottom, and oh man, I think it did more damage than Strahd probably did, being completely honest with you. Oh, Nepharun again, with Fireball this time. Rahadin at the Amber Temple, speaking of the Amber Temple. I think he's doing some ritual where he's trying to eat a frog, a live frog whole? Yeah. So yeah, I guess you could pick a fight with him, and that may or may not go down very well, depending on how strong you are. The Abbot does a regular attack where he hits you with his mace, or if he's been disarmed, he grabs a candelabra from the table, and boom! Even with like a random candelabra, it does extra radiant damage. One must die. One must die. Somebody sacrifices themselves in Death House Ritual Chamber in order to leave the house peacefully. Strahd preys on a victim of the elevator trap. The gas makes them fall asleep, makes them fall unconscious, and Strahd, easy pickings. Said about making enemies of Esmeralda earlier. Some people make enemies of the Martikovs. I don't know how or why you would want to do that, but I don't think it would be a very good idea. There's more than just the parents. They've got friends in the Blue Water Inn. There's quite a few of them. And they're were-ravens as well, so if it's early on in the game, the players might not even be able to hurt them very much. I think it'd have to get really bad to have a fight with the Martikovs and for the Martikovs to TPK you. I think that's probably one of the least likely TPKs. A random wolf or direwolf battle in the wilderness, in the Svalich Road or Svalich Woods of Barovia. An evil PC uses the Burgomaster Mansion magic mirror, and I think it describes as instead of being able to summon a spectral assassin, there's like bulging eyes and hands, try and strangle them. Teleporter iron golems. They are extremely powerful enemies to fight. Don't do anything to that teleportation brazier, my friends. Bad news. Winter Splinter, the tree blight in Yester Hill, hits with one of its attacks. Bam! If one of the PCs takes the Tarachamedes, is that how that's pronounced? Dark Gift, but doesn't eat enough daily grave dirt. This is the one with the skeletal wings. It says you die. Gotta eat your daily grave dirt. Killed by Doru, possibly one of the earliest ways to die, outside of Death House, and especially if you don't run Death House, probably one of the earliest ways to die in a Curse of Strahd campaign. The 6 druids and 6 berserkers in Yester Hill. That is a really serious encounter. It was nearly a TPK when I was a player in Curse of Strahd, and it was nearly a TPK in the game I then later DM'd. Another classic, say it with me friends, Death House Broom! That broom has probably killed a lot of PCs over the years. The Green Curtain of Flame at Salenka Pass. I think it does a ton of fire damage if you try and go in. It's probably not a good idea to go into a Green Curtain of Flame, but I'm sure there's some people who are like, does this hurt? Ouch. Yes, it does. The Book Club cult in the Wachter House cellar. Bunch of cultists and cult fanatics, and an imp, I think. Lady Wachter's imp dancing around. That can be a pretty deadly encounter, especially if the players are quite early on. Strahd casts animate objects. Maybe it's books from his study. Maybe it's bits of rubble from the random parts of Castle Ravenloft where the stonework is falling apart. Maybe it's bits of the chapel pews or broken stained glass window glass. He fires them at the PCs and they can be pretty brutal. I think we're about the halfway point now. The Rock at Salenka Pass swoops and grabs a PC, maybe throws them off the bridge. Beautiful. Rahadin appears again, this time if you see him in his office. Vladimir, the head revenant of Argynvostholt. I've heard quite a few stories of Hiss being a TPK, especially because then he summons a bunch of phantom warriors to help him as well. The Invisible Stalker in the dining hall of the Count, not the one on the ground floor, but the one by the study in Castle Ravenloft, can be pretty deadly. An Amber Golem, they're pretty sturdy, tough dudes. One punches you in the face, ouch. Falling from the Castle Ravenloft overlook, plunging 1,000 feet, just like Irina did, I guess. The Chapel Revenants, talked about Vladimir a minute ago, but there's 3 Revenants in the chapel. That's not an easy encounter. The tower, Van Richten's tower collapses if you are in it or near it. It's a whole ton of bludgeoning damage as it all just falls on you. This is one I've heard of quite a few times, and it panics quite a few DMs. Teleports in from Castle Ravenloft to Amber Temple with no cold clothes. Like, how do you play it? Do they get something? Do they just freeze to death? Is it game over? Because I think the mechanics of it are you would slowly become exhausted, and if you hit the 6th or the final level of exhaustion, you die. Speaking of the Amber Temple, there is an invisible death slard, or at least it starts off invisible, in one of the vestige rooms. Death House Shadows. Shadows, especially with a low level party, are pretty deadly. They reduce your strength down to 0. You die. Death by Dretch. I think this is a very unlikely one. The hags at the old bone grinder can knock around this barrel, I think it is, and some dretches can appear, and they can do like really bad farts, and it's poison damage. There's a whole bunch of blights by the Golthius tree that grows in Yester Hill, that can, initially a bunch of them are disguised as well, and they can attack if somebody comes near or maybe attacks the Golthius tree. Death by Vistani. Hopefully it wouldn't get to a point where the Vistani are fighting the PCs, unless it's some of the evil ones working with Strahd. But if you are using their Curse and Evil Eye abilities, I know not all DMs do, but some of the combos they can do. Hold Person, which obviously, like, you know, attacks have advantage, and then other people firing crossbows or hitting with slashing, and the other ability allows you to do vulnerability of a certain type of damage, make it piercing or slashing damage. Ouch, that's gonna hurt. Oh, another one that's really famous, say it with me friends. Esmeralda's wagon, what does it do? It explodes outside Van Richten's tower. Octavio's Tiger, maybe it's part of the Tiger event, or maybe when it attacks in Vistani and then attacks a PC as well while the PCs are trying to calm the situation. There is a wine cask in Castle Ravenloft in the wine cellar where it has a black pudding in it. Those dudes can be pretty bothersome. Babalasaga again, cast Fireball. And Babalasaga's Creeping Hut. That thing hits extremely, extremely hard. Piddlewick 2 pushes you down the stairs. Bonus points if it's the Heart of Sorrow stairs. That would be hilarious, but also horrible. Kazan's Staff. When it appears, if it appears, in the crypts and somebody grabs it, there's a whole bunch of, I think it's thunder damage, that happens to the person who grabs it. That might zap them to 0 HP. Lightning at the Druid's Circle. So if you climb onto the rocks, the stone circle, there's a small chance you might be zapped by lightning. Ouch. You find the Mad Mage, but he either casts Cone or Cold on you, or more fittingly, I feel, Lightning Bolt, because he talks about how he likes to zap the fish in the lake. Oh, this is a good one that's like kind of one that you know, when reading through the book you might not necessarily think of. It's going to the Mist Border, slowly becoming exhausted and dying because you can't leave Barovia. The animated armor in Death House. I've heard a few people fall slain from that thing. The Wall of Stone trap in Argynvost that can split the players, and then you might have 1 or 2 players who are ganged up on by groups of Phantom Warriors. The Rahadin's Revenge event, detailed in the epilogue, where after killing Strahd, if Rahadin's still alive, he's the final boss after Strahd. Strahd's Consorts. Anastasia, Ludmilla, Valenta, and Escher. If you're running it just rules as written, Escher's in one room, but the other 3 are by Strahd's coffin. Isaac, which I feel like pronounced wrong, I think it's Isaac, in Valaki, with his flaming arm and his huge axe. Talking about the elevator trap again, this time being squashed by his counterweight. It's as if you stand in the area where the counterweight comes down, you get pulverised. Ugh. Leaf, the accountant, gets nervous, calls for reinforcements, and some of them looking at the list look pretty strong. Amber Temple vampire spawns, as well as the 6 in the coffin shop. There's 6 in the main vestige chamber in the Amber Temple. Hopefully at that point in the campaign the players have at least 1 of the 2 sunlight items, otherwise that's going to be a tricky encounter as well. The brown mould in the winery. I've had quite a few stories about this killing people. They just go up to the mould and then slowly freeze to death and die. You know, it's it's not even a monster. You don't roll initiative. It's just you walk up to this thing and then freeze and die. Flame skulls in the Amber Temple. There's quite a few groups of them. There's not just the ones in the corridor that can also help Neferin shoot fireballs, but there's some to the southeast that can either... There's a hole in the ceiling of one of the vestiges and they can either fly up or fly down. Death House does some ghasts as well as ghouls that can be pretty tough to fight. I believe it's the Mother and Father Durst are now ghasts. Grim. Strahd, cast Fireball. Exethanter, the Lich with memory loss in the Amber Temple. Even without his spells, which is what it says unless he's, you know, brought back to memory, even his cantrips are going to hit pretty hard. And if they try and take his spellbook and he sees it, he's not going to be happy about that. There's a Mimic. There's a door Mimic in Death House in the Cult Leader Den. Zapped by the lightning trap if you try and touch the door or touch the tower walls of Van Richten's tower. Patrina is a Banshee, Wales, bringing some or all of the PCs down to 0 HP. If you break a door in the Amber Temple, there's this huge necrotic explosion that if it brings you down to 0 hit points, you get turned into dust. What a way to go! This I feel like is like kind of a lame... It's kind of a cool way to go, but a lame way to go. The drawbridge breaking as you walk across it towards Castle Ravenloft. There's a 1 in 20 chance of a floorboard breaking and you can fall off and fall 1,000 feet. You know, that's kind of one of those things that's like, oh, that's horrifying. It works perfect in a horror campaign, but also, oh, what a way to go. Could have at least been killed by a monster. In addition to Red Dragon and Wormlings, there's gargoyles in the entry of Castle Ravenloft. What I love as well is they don't activate the first time you go through, they activate a later time, and it fooled my players who thought, oh, this is a safe area to walk through. Nope, there's now 8 gargoyles. You could do a mass mongrel folk battle at Krezg if, say, the abbot calls in reinforcements. There's a lot of mongrel folk that can get involved. Or if your players annoy Madame Eva or threaten her. I don't think I've ever seen this, and her stat block is amazing, so I'd love a good excuse to use her stat block and have her attack. But she's got some powerful spells, including Firestorm. The Krezg Pool Lightning, regardless of whether Irina goes in it or is pulled back and tries to go in it, Strahd's anger zaps it and can do a huge blast of lightning. I've heard of stories where at least Irina could get killed by that. Maybe some PCs as well. Strahd's animated armour, walking around on the parapets of Castle Ravenloft, is pretty strong and has a high AC. There's an upside down chest in Amber Temple, where I think if you try and open it, the floor beneath you disappears. And you can obviously take fall damage, but I think there's also some poltergeists below. And just to troll you even harder, the chest was empty the whole time. And finally, number 99, if the hags survive the hag encounter, they might follow you on the ethereal plane and do nightmare hauntings, which can reduce your max HP eventually to 0. And that's 99 ways one might die in Barovia. Hello, Steve here, audio only. I can't believe it! Even though I had a list of 99 things, in all my excitement while I was recording the video, I overlooked one of the rows in my spreadsheet. Yes, I used the spreadsheet, how rock and roll am I? So I did actually have 99 things, but only read out 98. The one I missed, which was about the 80-something mark, was the Guardian Portrait of Strahd's in his castle, where it can do spells like telekinesis and Crown of Madness, and so you're well, a lot of them are like sort of spells that don't actually cause you harm. Some of them can, or they force a creature to cause harm to another thing. I also think I got the Dretch thing wrong. This is all stuff I picked up in the editing phase. I think I got the Dretch thing wrong. I don't think a poison farts can kill you. I think they just poison you, but they can hurt you in other ways. Anyway, back to the video. Now, I thought I'd do a bit of a bonus at the end where I talk about PC deaths from the campaign where I was a player and PC deaths from the campaign that I then DM'd. When I was a player, we only had one PC death, which was we had 2 party rogues. One of the rogues got killed at Yes the Hill by the 6 Druid 6 Berserkers. My fighter very nearly died as well. I think was on 2 failed death saves, but managed to survive. And yeah, and then for the rest of the campaign, we managed to get by. My fighter was KO'd constantly. I lost count of the number of times he got KO'd. It was a miracle he survived to the end. And number of PCs that died when I DM'd Curse of Strahd, a grand total of 0. Yes, I know that's disappointing, but we had a few close calls. The fighter, I homebrewed a Sorrowsworn encounter, 2 lost Sorrowsworn at Van Richten's tower, and the fighter ran straight up to them and got skewered, and 2 failed death saving throws until Rictavio quickly cast a healing spell. The wizard, I homebrewed a wood woad encounter, and the wizard set the thing on fire, and it hates fire. I think it's its weakness, and so I did the thing where DMs say that you shouldn't do this, but when you hit a PC when they're down, but I figured the wood woad was like, this thing just cast me on fire, I'm going to keep hitting it. And so hit it when it was down, 2 failed death saves, but then got healed. The Warlock, there was a whole thing. Oh man, I'm not even going to explain it. I'll just share a link in the description to a Reddit post where I talked about it and shared some pictures where the PC, the Warlock, has disguised himself as Strahd visiting the Wachter house. Strahd disguised himself as Ernst, made it out as if, like, you know, because they'd previously captured and interrogated Ernst, and then there were 2 Strahds, and Strahd left him for dead in the basement, but there was a clever use of Dimension Door and then a healing spell with my players, saving him just in the nick of time. And finally, the Bard PC KO'd during the final battle against Strahd, one of the last rounds, and rolled a natural 1 on the death saves, 2 failed death saves, and we were all panicking, but then they defeated Strahd, and he was healed. So no deaths, but 4 very, very close calls. And I've seen some DMs say that a very close death, like 2 failed death saves, is better than an outright death, because then your player doesn't lose the character, but the threat of death is real. Or at least that's the excuse I'm using, as I eagerly await the comments where DMs shout at me saying I'm a lame DM because none of my PCs died. How did your PCs die? Was it one of the ways I said? Was it something else, whether rules was written vanilla, Curse of Strahd, or homebrew, or one of the famous mod guides? Was it something completely weird? Was it something completely funny? Was it something completely underwhelming? Please tell me your stories. That's it for this one. If I've counted this right as well, this is my 100th video. So, I mean, that does include things like a couple of shorts. I've not done many shorts, but hey, that's cool. 100 videos. I feel like I should celebrate with cake. Upcoming videos. Oh gosh, what's on the agenda? I might do a video about the brides, the consorts. I might do a video all about Strahd and role-playing Strahd. So I did a video about battle tactics, but I might do a video about role-playing Strahd, resources for Strahd, things like that. I'm thinking of doing a intro and overview video for brand new DMs, not brand new DMs necessarily, sorry, DMs who are new to Curse of Strahd. So you might not be a brand new DM, you might be an experienced DM, but you know, you want to know what Curse of Strahd is like, and it'll just sort of give a sort of high-level overview of the book, and maybe have a bit of an FAQ section at the end. So if you haven't already, please subscribe. I've got a playlist with about 50 Curse of Strahd videos and about 50 Ravenloft videos. Done some campaign diaries. I recently did a live AMA that went really well. Thank you for everyone who joined. I'll probably do some more of those in the future. And see you at the next one. Happy Halloween! And thank you, Mr. Wanderers.